Thank you for joining us tonight for the Northwest Consumer Law Center webinar series. Tonight's webinar is How to Buy a Used Car, Top Tips from an Auto Attorney. My name is Amanda and I'm the Executive Director of the Northwest Consumer Law Center. Tonight we have our newest Northwest Consumer Law Center staff attorney, Alyssa, with us, and she is going to be running tonight's presentation. If you have questions during her presentation, please enter those in the chat box on your right. We'll be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. This session is being recorded and will be available to view on our website. Attending this webinar does not create an attorney-client relationship. This presentation will provide legal information and it's not a substitute for individualized legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice, you can apply for our services and we'll be posting information about how to do that at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for that nice introduction. Good evening, everyone. My name's Alyssa. What is an auto attorney? I'm sure a lot of you are wondering. It's kind of a niche subject area, but I specialize in a few things, contracts for sure, and warranties, as well as the little subject areas included in auto fraud, which include yo-yo sales, title issues, and odometer, federal and state odometer laws, and misrepresentation. It's a mixed bag. We cover a lot of things, but pretty much anything that the dealer does that sounds like they shouldn't be doing, that's something we might cover. So today's presentation, we are covering how not to be scammed by dealerships in particular, your rights as a buyer when you do go to the dealership, and when is a good time to talk to an auto attorney. We are not covering what's the best price, model, color of a car. So if you have particular questions about what car you should buy, this is not the place to ask it. I won't be able to help you with that. I won't be answering questions about scams by private sellers. So if you're planning to buy a car from your uncle or someone off of Craigslist, it's very much buyer beware. I'll just tell you, there are not a lot of protections out there if you're dealing with someone individually. So this presentation is specifically for dealerships. And I'm also not going to give you tips on where to buy a car. There are a lot of places to go. There are a lot of dealerships out there, and I won't be giving you particular advice on which ones to go to, but you'll know which ones are the bad ones after this presentation. Okay, just one moment. I think we might have a technical issue. Okay, I'm just going to continue for now. Okay. So tip number one, know what you want when you're going in. Okay, and that means shopping around on the internet. That's really the best place to go. You can walk around dealer lots as well, but they will hound you if you do that. The best place to look for a car is online at home, so you can enjoy the time looking at all the cars. For car value, the best place to look is Craigslist to get a start. And also cargurus.com. Cargurus.com is really great if you know exactly what car you want. If you know the year, or the year range, the make and the model, CarGurus will give you a really good estimate. Craigslist will give you a good local estimate of what local folks will be able to sell you the car for. Kelley Blue Book is a good tool, but a lot of dealerships and a lot of private sellers as well will sort of veer from that depending on a lot of things, depending on the condition of the car, depending on the mileage. So between those three, that should give you a good idea about how much you want to spend on this car. The second thing you should check is the VIN and the title. And these websites are not cute. They look very standardized because they are. The first one is nicb.org/VINcheck. It'll tell you if a car has been stolen. You definitely want to just check this. It's an easy, you just type in the VIN and it'll say if it has a record. And you don't want to buy a car if it has a record. Cars for Sale is great. That's essentially the free Carfax. It'll tell you a lot of good information about a car. It provides a free vehicle history report. And before I go to the next slide, I'll talk about Carfax a little bit. So Carfax is something a lot of places offer for free. If they offer for free, take it. Like, there's no harm in taking a look at free information. But Carfaxes get their information from dealerships. And, you know, sometimes dealerships don't give the most accurate information. So it's good to double check a lot of different places. If anyone doesn't give you a VIN, that's a big red flag. The VIN should be something that dealerships, even private sellers, should just give it to you freely. And with the VIN, you can do a lot of the research beforehand. So once you know what you want, you can do the next step, which is knowing your boundaries. This is very important as a buyer. You need to go in knowing exactly what you want and what you don't want. So then when dealers push things on you, you can say no. So the first one is mileage. This is something a lot of people don't quite know about, but a good amount of mileage on a car is about 10,000 a year, 10,000 miles a year per year. So quick example, okay, on a 2015 Honda Civic, so that's 5 years ago, that Civic has 67,000 miles. So is that good or bad mileage? It's like kind of a trick question. Not really. It's actually okay. It's okay. It's not bad. So we're looking at, it's 5 years. So we want a car with around 50,000 miles per year. So this is a little over. This is about 17 over. So I would think of this as a little high. So, you know, look at the price. Make sure you're not overpaying for a car that has been driven more than it probably should. At the same time, if you see a really low mileage, that's not a good sign either, because that means the car has probably been sitting in a lot for a lot longer than you would want it to. You want something between, I would say between 10 above or 10 below where it should be, 10 grand above or below. So for this 2015 vehicle, I'd say if the mileage was between 40 and maybe 60, I'd say that's a pretty good car. That's a reliable, good car that has been driven pretty well. If it's higher or lower, then that's when you start thinking about negotiating. The second one are add-ons. Think about what you actually need. A lot of cars, when you buy them used, they will come with all kinds of fancy doodads. You know, just like the leather seats, like super cool leather seats. Or, you know, as I put here, air conditioning. Air conditioning, most people want. A backup camera, some people don't need. And you could also actually just install that yourself. Places like Car Toys has backup camera installation kits. So if you want to save some money, you can do that. And a Bluetooth connection. That's something that a lot of people think in this day and age, I need that. You know, I need to connect my phone to this car. Well, you can actually just connect it through an auxiliary cord. You know, it's like a little USB sort of thing. Plug it into your phone if your phone has that jack, and you got sound. So, you know, there are ways to sort of budget and save money. And there's no reason why you should pay for something that you don't need or don't want. So just think about that when you're looking at all the little add-ons and features that cars have. The last thing to think about is the location of the dealership. Do you actually want to drive out of state to get this car? When you go online, you're going to see a lot. If you're in Washington, you're going to see a lot of ads from Idaho or Oregon. And a lot of people think, oh, I want to go to Oregon because it's tax exempt. I'm going to save so much money. That may be true, but you're also going to add a ton of mileage to your car when you drive down there and when you drive back, mostly when you drive back. But it's definitely something to think about, depending on how old the car is. Maybe you don't want to add that much mileage all at once. Also think about a service contract. Would you need a service contract for a dealership that's in Oregon or Idaho? Probably not. So if you like the idea of a service contract, buy locally. You know, if you want to just go down to Auburn or go down to Renton or wherever the dealership is, maybe it makes more sense to buy locally. Moving on. So tip number 3, Know your power. I think this is an underrated tip. A lot of people get really intimidated when they go to the dealership. But the most important thing you have to remember, you can always walk away. You can always walk away at any time, at any time. No one can force your hand to sign a bad contract or to buy a car that you don't want to buy. So use your instincts. If it feels fishy, it's probably fishy. If you're asking for things, if you're asking questions, if you want to see paperwork and they're playing hard to get and they're pushing back, they're probably trying to hide something. Maybe there's a reason why they're not being upfront with you. And always remember, there are always other cars to choose from. I know a lot of people get really emotionally invested. Oh my God, like this is the car I grew up with. I want it, you know, but there will always be other cars and other dealerships you can go to. Like always remember, you can walk away. It's very important. I listed here a couple of the Washington state statutes that protect you too. So just know that as a buyer, you do have power in this. And the law sort of treats you as equal parties, even though it might not feel like it because the dealership, you know, is all knowing. They have all the power. They're selling the car. You, in exchange for the car, are paying them money. So you kind of have to think of yourself as equal partners in this. And you do have protections from the state, certain protections. And I'll go into some of these later. But you do have some backing when you go into a dealership. So don't feel like you're alone. Okay. What to do when you're at the dealership. Okay, tip number 4, get to know the vehicle. And I mean intimately. Don't be shy, okay? You want to go on a test drive for sure. Everyone recommends this. But you should bring a friend with you. And a lot of people think bring the friend to help you negotiate. That could help. I would recommend it. Why not? But bring the friend to sit in the passenger or in the back seat. Because sometimes the dealership will have someone there with you, but bring them with you and they could tell you what it feels like to be a passenger in the car. You know, what if it's like bumpy back there or it's noisy or there's something that you don't know about? It's good to have someone sit back there. Another tip, drive in different conditions. And I mean the freeway. Get on the freeway if you can with that car. We've had clients that have cars that don't accelerate when they should. They don't accelerate up to speed on the highway. They were fine in city limits, but did not accelerate. So that's something you want to catch. Drive on the freeway, drive in the city, make sure all the lights work, and go up and down a hill. See if the brakes work. You should also try parallel parking. I know everyone hates parallel parking, but you don't want the car to fail you when you're trying to parallel park. The great thing about this test is you're going to be using the mirrors, you're going to be using your lights, you're going to be looking left, right? It is a great test to check every asset of the car to see if you feel comfortable driving the car. Another tip, like I mentioned before, inspect everything. Be like a kid in a candy store. And I mean like fiddle with all the knobs, every single knob, honk the horn, play with all the knobs, make sure everything works. And if it doesn't, ask the dealer about it. And either, you know, accept that they'll give you a discount because it doesn't work, or walk away. You know, if you want something to work and it doesn't, then there's no reason why you should buy it. Another question we get a lot from clients is the vehicle inspection. So you go around the car, you look at the car, you look in the inside, you go on the outside, you look at the tires, kind of look at the tread of the tires, you look at the condition of the car. And I'm no expert either. I'm not a mechanic. We can't see inside the vehicle. Unless you are an expert, good for you. You probably don't need this webinar. But if you're not an expert, should you take it to a mechanic? And the answer is yeah, if you can. And, you know, dealers should not tell you no. If you say, hey, I'm thinking about taking this car to a mechanic for an inspection, you know, would you mind if I take it over there? They should say yes. They should say, oh, yeah, go ahead. You know, like, no problem. If they push back, maybe you should wonder why they don't want an outside mechanic taking a look at it. Some used vehicles go through certification programs. So if you go to some well-known dealerships, they'll say certified used vehicle. That means their in-house mechanics have taken a look at it. And those cars tend to be a little more expensive because you're paying for that extra service. But if that's the case, you probably don't need to take it out again, because then you're just paying more money on top of what's already in there. But if it's an older vehicle with high mileage, or there's something else that's, kind of fishy about the car, maybe take it out. Take it out to a mechanic. It doesn't hurt to get a second or third opinion. Okay, tip number 5. Know what as is means. It sounds straightforward, and it kind of is. As is means you as the customer, the buyer, is responsible for all repairs and maintenance of the vehicle. So when you walk into a used car dealership, a lot of cars will be as is. I mean, vast majority of vehicles you're buying are going to say as is. And it really should be clearly marked on the vehicle. That's actually required by the law. So there should be a sticker. You should not have a dealer, sneak up on you when you're signing paperwork, say, by the way, this car is as is. That's not allowed. That is illegal. They can't do that. Okay, so what you need to understand that when you're looking at an as is vehicle, you're going to be responsible for a lot of the repairs and the maintenance. Okay, the caveat, or sort of the but of that, is something called the implied warranty of merchantability. It's like the big garbled contractual term that just means, a car has to be sold for its very basic purposes, as we have there. Fit for ordinary driving purposes, okay? And that literally means, does the car go forward? Does it accelerate? Does it get to highway speed when it needs to? Can it park on a hill safely? Do the brakes work, okay? This does not mean the AC is broken. This does not mean the backup camera does not work, okay? Those are nice and help with comfort, but they do not help with driving purposes, okay? So it also covers safety. So anything related to safety, that's brakes, but it's also the airbags, and it's also like the lights, the headlights of the car, turning lights, anything related to safety. And this implied warranty of merchantability is guaranteed in our law, okay? Unless you sign it away, which some used car dealerships will kind of ask you to do. You're signing the contracts, you're excited, this is going to be your car, and they have you sign an as-is waiver. They will always make you sign that if it's an as-is car, but they might stick in an implied warranty of merchantability waiver as well. And it's my personal recommendation. Again, we're not your attorneys, but I'm just telling you, this is something that is guaranteed by the law. So if you sign it away, it's going to be very hard to come back after the dealer if something is wrong with the car. Okay, we've actually won cases against dealerships where the client did not sign this form. And because they didn't sign it, we were able to go after them when the car failed a safety test or when the car did not accelerate to highway speed. So just know that you're never required to sign that. If they're like, oh, you have to sign this before you leave, don't just be like, no. Maybe you should walk away. Maybe you don't want to buy a car from someone who is pushing you to sign something that is not required. Okay, so just know what you're walking into. A lot of used cars have a lot of problems going in. So just know what you're getting yourself into when you get a used car. Okay, tip number 6, get to know the contract. I know a lot of people are like, ew, I don't want to do that. But you got to do it. You got to do it because this is something that is going to hook you for a long time, especially if you're financing the vehicle. If you're buying this car up front, all cash, cool. You should still take a look at it just in case. Check the odometer listing. A lot of people don't do this because they're like, oh, the car is out in the lot. I don't want to go out there and check the odometer. Check it. Make sure it's the same. If it's more than 5 miles over, I would ask why. Between the car should not be driven that much if it's been parking on the lot. We've had clients where the dealer used to drive the car. Like that was the dealer's commuter car. So the odometer was off by quite a lot. And, all you have to do is ask them, hey, update the contract. The numbers are wrong. Can you fix it? That's all it takes. Okay. And there are federal laws that require that number to be right. So they definitely need to make it right. The second thing you want to look at in the contract is something called the TILA, or it's required by the Federal Truth in Lending Act. And what it'll have is the APR, which is, the annual percentage rate of the financing of the vehicle. And it'll also say the total amount financed. It'll have a lot of information on it. It's great. But make sure it's all there. Okay, so make sure the percentage that is on there is the percentage you agreed to. And just make sure that it's consistent with what you agreed with the dealer. Okay, optional additions. These are truly optional. The dealer will try to push these on you because that's how they make even more money. Okay, but always remember, it's optional. Walk away. Say no if you don't need it. Okay, the first one is gap insurance. Okay, this is kind of hard to understand sometimes. It's hard for me to understand too, so it's okay. But it's really only useful if you owe more on the car than what it's worth, okay? And especially for long-term financing, and I mean like 60 months plus, okay? For really long-term financing. So here's an example, just to give you some numbers, okay? Let's say you finance 30 grand on a car, okay? You wreck the car. I'm sorry you did that. You wrecked your new car, okay? And your car insurance, which you had because you're a responsible driver, will pay the car's actual value at the time, okay, which is 20 grand, right? So, but you actually still owe around 24 on your loan, right? So there's a difference between 24 and 20, about 4,000. And so the gap will cover that 4,000. So you don't have to pay that out of pocket, okay? But you're thinking, that seems like a very specific occasion. It is. Most people don't need gap insurance, especially if you put a lot of money down. You're going to probably pay off the car pretty darn soon, within 2 or 3 years. In that case, you probably won't get in a awful total car crash, so save the money. Don't get the gap insurance. If you need longer financing, it might be a good idea to get it. So that's your call. A service contract. This is something that a lot of people get. Maybe it's just me. I don't really buy it. You get the service contract if you like the convenience, if you really like the dealer, if you love seeing the dealer, you always want to come back. You had a great experience, get it. Sure. It's dependable. With service contracts, it's kind of cool because they track all the data in their computer system, so you don't really have to think about, the oil is due, or, I have to check the brakes or something. They time all of that, so they'll keep track of it for you. But you should shop around if you don't really care. If you really just need a car to get from point A to point B, and, it's just a car, and you could get your oil changed at the Jiffy Lube or wherever. If you don't really care, shop around. Save your money, okay? It's not required, and they can't force you to sign up for it. Okay, continuation of tip number 6. So this is an example of a contract. It's 1 page. It's 1 page out of 5. There are many pages. But it looks like a bunch of jumble, but you can do it. It's okay. Look at it. Look at it carefully. All right. And I highlighted 2 things here. The top one is the document service fee. Okay. And it actually is required by law to have this disclaimer that says it is not required by the state of Washington. And it also says that it's negotiable. So why not negotiate it? On this example, the document service fee is $150. That seems like a lot. It is a lot. Honestly, the document service fee is supposed to cover like printing costs. So just think about, if you go to the FedEx or the copy store, 1 sheet of paper might be like $0.25 to print something. So how much paper do they really need? Why are they charging you $150? I would have it, or even go less than that. If you're feeling really good about it, just ask them why, what is this? Negotiate, if they really want to make this deal, they'll work with you. All right. And the second one down below there that you should look out for is the title fee. Okay, and it actually says the government certificate of title fee. And my tip to you is, oh, check this. Definitely check this. They will upcharge it because most people don't know how much it costs to title a car. And the easiest way to check that, go on the website. Pull out your phone while you're there if you want to. Go to the Washington State Department of Licensing, wa.dol.gov, and look at how much it costs to title a car. And I put it should be no more than 100. It should be no more than 50. It should be around 50. So if you look at this example here, they charged $493. That's insane. You should never pay that much. Granted, this particular contract was for, there was like a trade-in, so maybe there's multiple titles that they're dealing with, but still, no more than 200, even for 2 cars. So ask why they're charging so much and bring it down. Bring it down. No reason why you have to pay that much. Okay, so those are 2 things that you should especially look at in this contract. Do not be scared of the fine print. If you don't understand the fine print, ask them. And again, if they make you feel uncomfortable, if they make you feel stupid, or if they just kind of brush it away, maybe think again. Maybe you don't want to work with these people. Okay, maybe you don't want to give them your $20,000 or whatever for the car. Okay, so don't be scared of these things, even though they're many pages. Just take your time, take a seat, read it. Okay. Oh, my slide is not working. I am trying to click to the next slide, and it is not.
Alyssa, are you supposed to be on tip number 7?
Okay. We apologize. Brief technical issue, it seems. The slide is not.
Hey, Alyssa,
loading.
are you supposed to be on tip number 7? Know that NWCLC is here for you.
Okay. This is exciting. Interesting. Okay. I might just have to keep, let me see if I can pull up my version just in case.
And while Alyssa is working on bringing up the slides, I'm just going to say, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and enter those in the chat box on the right. And go ahead and start.
Okay. I don't think you guys can see this, but I wonder if you can see it in the handout. Maybe, okay. Anyway. Tip number 7. Just listen to my voice. It's okay. I can see the slide. Okay, tip number 7. Just know that we are here for you. So the Northwest Consumer Law Center is a law firm, a nonprofit law firm that provides legal advice to folks that qualify. Okay, we do serve only low-income individuals and families, and we will figure that out when you call for a consult. If you don't qualify, no worries. We will give referrals typically. We won't just say no and send you on your way. If you have a question, call. And if you do qualify, you'll get a free consult. It's pretty cool. A free consult with either me or another attorney. And, at that point, we will sort of decide if you have a case or not. And if you do talk to us, and this is just a general tip too, send us your documents. I mean, save everything, okay? Everything you sign, you should have a copy of, okay? Count the pages. Make sure they don't leave anything out, okay? We would want copies of all the purchasing documents, and I mean all the contracts, all the warranties, if there's title documents, vehicle title documents, which they should give you, we would want to see those too. So just think about all the paper. We want to see everything, all right? Another thing to keep a lookout for, communications with the dealership. A lot of dealers are pretty cool now, and they'll text. They'll even talk to you over Facebook Messenger. That's all great. Save them. Screenshot it. Also emails. Emails are also good ways to keep track of things. Here's something people don't realize. Oral communications, and I mean they're talking to you on the phone or you're talking on the dealer lot, that's very hard to enforce, okay? So if the dealer is saying, hey, this car is great, this is the best car you're ever gonna buy, there's nothing wrong with it, and then turns out something is wrong with it, it doesn't help us very much if all you have is, they told me it would work. It's not good, okay? And for us in like legal land, lawyer land, we love things on paper. You know, make the dealer write it out on paper that this vehicle is perfect. I guarantee this car is perfect. They won't do that, but you should ask them for something on paper, okay? Any sort of documentation is good documentation, and just keep it. Just save it. If you have pictures, that's great. Some people might think it's weird, but honestly, the dealer shouldn't care because, you know, maybe you're sharing the pictures with your family. Look at this cool car I'm thinking of buying. It helps the mechanics too. If something does happen to the car, they'll want to see what did this look like before you left the lot, you know. So take pictures before, take pictures after. Okay, another thing that we love seeing, estimates from outside mechanics, okay? And this is only when something goes wrong. I hope nothing goes wrong with your used car. But if something does, the dealership is obligated to try to help you and fix it the first time, a couple times, usually 2 or 3 tries before they give up. But you should absolutely get an estimate from an outside mechanic as well. Okay, so if their estimate and the outside estimate is very different, maybe you should give us a call, okay? Because it sounds like the dealer might be hiding something, or maybe the dealer isn't going to come through on fixing, you know, the entire vehicle when the car doesn't even drive, okay? So don't be afraid to get an outside estimate on anything. And last of all, get receipts and save your receipts. Don't throw them away. If you hate paper, take a picture of it, okay? And save the picture. The receipts will be like the basis of what we call our damages, right? The harms. You know, there's sort of 2 ways we frame cases for our auto fraud cases. It could be that you really need the car. So you're going to pay for the repairs up front, even though you think, you know, hey, I don't think I should be paying for this. The dealer should be paying for it. Fine. You pay for everything up front. We'll try to get the reimbursement back from the dealer, okay, when we get the lawyers involved. That's option A. Option B, you wait. You don't pay for anything. You get the estimates, and then we make the dealer pay for it. That can take a little longer. And that usually works only if you don't need the car to drive every day. But it's another option. Either way, we need documentation of the repairs. So don't be afraid to save all the paperwork, okay? And that is our last tip. Questions? Yes. Wow. It looks like it's working again.
Alyssa, can you hear me? Okay, we're having some sound issues. If you have any questions, please go ahead and enter those in the chat box on your right. Alyssa, one of the first questions I have is, does Carfax list every accident that a vehicle has been in, if it has been in any accidents?
Yes, if it was reported. Key, right? So sometimes you ding a car on the freeway and it's like a little boop boop, a little rear ender or a little fender bender. You don't report that, right? You know, sometimes you do. But sometimes you just think, you know, I don't want to deal with the cops. I don't want to deal with my insurance. I'm not going to call it in. It won't be in the Carfax. So there's a lot of things that won't be reported. The major stuff, you could just think of it this way. If you would call your insurance company for it, it would probably be reported, you know, so big collisions, you know, mechanical failures, you know, but little stuff won't be reported. So just know that when you get the Carfax, it's a pretty good tool, but it's no guarantee. You know, you can walk into the lot and look at the car and think, oh, I didn't know about all these little dings and dents. It wasn't on the Carfax. It wouldn't be on the Carfax. So I hope that answers your question.
One of the things we hear a lot is people who see the, you know, we finance everyone. You don't need to have good credit. We help people with bad credit or no credit. Can you talk a little bit about that and whether, you know, are these too good to be true, or maybe there's some good deals to be had out there?
Yeah, actually, I think it could almost be a whole nother webinar, you know, like auto financing. There's a lot to it, right? If I would say the first thing you should realize when you walk into those places is there's a reason why they are saying 0% down. There's a reason why they're willing to just give the car away for $2,000. There's something else afoot, you know. If you can't afford like a fancy expensive car, and hey, you need a car to go from point A to point B for work, you only got $2,000, you know, go to that place and use my tips, because those places are still bound by the laws of the state of Washington. They still need to be licensed, and it's still the same rules. You know, they can't force you to sign anything that you don't need. And with places like that, I would be very careful about the contract, because they will stick all kinds of fees and all kinds of sneaky stuff in there, you know, and I don't want to stereotype and say they're all horrible, but a lot of those places will take advantage of your neediness. You know, if they know people that go to their shops need a car for work or for their family or for whatever, and they will just try to push you out and rush you out of there. So if you go to those places, I just say use the tips, take your time there. Do not let them rush you. If English is not your first language, bring someone who can speak for you, because they will take advantage of you as well. Or, you know, bring a friend.
And speaking of topics that could be its own webinar, we have a question about lemon law arbitrations. And I will follow up with that attendee directly. But could you just quickly talk a little bit about what lemon law is?
Oh, sure. That is definitely a whole nother webinar. Only I'd say the biggest thing with lemon, it really doesn't cover used cars. And if it's used cars, it's within the first like year or two. So when you think lemon, you should be thinking new or new-ish car. It does not cover the 2015 Civic. It will probably, for us, for this year, probably maybe late 2018 up to current vehicles. So it's a lot more limited than people think, but it's really only for the shiny new lemon, shiny new car. But a little bit about the lemon law. Essentially, it requires manufacturers to, you know, essentially fix defects of these new cars. You know, so you don't have to pay out of pocket if your brand new Toyota has a bad carburetor or accelerator or whatever. It just means the dealer has to pay for that, and you don't pay anything up front. But again, it's only for brand new cars.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. And I am going to connect that person with you offline so you guys can talk more about lemon law. And that was our last question of the night. So thank you so much for giving such a great presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Please join us for the next session in our webinar series on Thursday, September 23rd at 6 p.m. We'll be discussing what to do when your COVID-19 mortgage forbearance relief ends. You can sign up online at NWCLC.org. You can find out about future webinars and stay up to date about everything we're doing at Northwest Consumer Law Center by following us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you're seeking legal representation, you're welcome to contact us to apply for our services. As Alyssa said, we only help folks of low and moderate incomes in Washington State. You can apply online at nwclc.org/get-help or by phone at 206-805-1722. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us tonight, and take care.
Okay, bye.